So welcome, 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 Bunmi. We greatly appreciate your leadership and all that you do for so many. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by acknowledging our creator. We acknowledge the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work.
Thank you, Victor. Thanks for inviting me to this wonderful platform. I also appreciate you for your leadership in our community. Thank you for highlighting folk in Canada who are doing interesting, excellent work from coast to coast to coast. My name is Bunmi Obateru, and I am a researching scholar. I study entrepreneurship. I study immigrant entrepreneurship. Specifically, I study immigrant Black entrepreneurship because it's the heartbeat of creating an inclusive economy. Immigrants are part of Canada creating an inclusive economy.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. We so appreciate your leadership and the intersection or the intersectionality of lived experience, social location, and the remarkable contributions immigrants have to Canadian society. Yeah. You can't put a value on it. So you doing research on this and gathering high quality disaggregated demographic data around this is remarkable. So once again, I can't applaud your work enough. So my first question is, what inspires you about your work currently?
You know, before we jumped onto this conversation, you talked about Black folk having 6 degrees of separation. And in other words, it's about decision makers in policy, understanding that Black is not Black is not Black is not Black. This is something we know in our communities, and that we are a very, very, very diverse people. When you look at Europe, Europe has 22 separate languages. When you look at the continent of Africa alone, you're looking at 2,000 different languages, not dialects, languages. And it's an advantage and a disadvantage. It's an advantage because we're very proud of our differences. We're different and we're proud of our differences. It may be a disadvantage because we don't have a common language. And when you compare us as Black folk, even though we look alike, we are very different. But when we look at other ethnicities, they tend to have just one language, which can unify them. So when creating policy and programs for people that look like us, it's really important to understand the historical backgrounds, the intersectionalities that they have in order to provide the best for us, and also a strength-based approach. What are we bringing to this country, right? What are we as Black folk? What do we bring to the table? What can Black folk do to help diversify Canada's economy? What can immigrants and immigrant Black folks do to grow Canada's economy? So for me, it's the narrative, right? It's not we want, it's what can we do? How can we contribute? So that's my inspiration. It's changing the narrative.
Indeed, indeed. And you're clearly doing it with your remarkable work. We give thanks. So my next question is, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And how are you and your colleagues working to overcome some of these challenges?
The challenges are that would I call it a challenge? The work I do, I have to acknowledge that there are those who have gone ahead of me. And I am also on the shoulders of those who have gone ahead of me. Very good research has been done. The very first research on Black entrepreneurship was done BDC and the Senate, Black Senate of Canada in 2021. It's 2023, it's just 2 years ago that this flood of data about Black entrepreneurship is coming into the space. It's in this year that Africa Center produced Black entrepreneurship in Alberta. And my research, which was released this October, focused on Black immigrant entrepreneurship in Alberta.
Are there any other challenges that you face in terms of, let's say, the data collection?
The right people to have the data, and for the right people, decision makers, to understand deeply that our differences bring strengths to our economy. And we speak English, even though many of us are immigrants and Blacks, we do speak English. That was one of the wonderful surprises. You know, when I give my presentations, some of the feedback we get is, I didn't know that there were so many countries in Africa that had English as an official language, that had French as an official language. That for me was awesome because the narrative is changing and I'm playing my part in that.
Indeed, indeed, you are, and we give thanks. So do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work that you're focused on?
Oh, yes, we want to continue using an intersectional, anti-colonial, anti-racist approach in our research. We want to make sure that the diversity within Black Canada is represented. What I mean by that is we have over 50 countries in the continent of Africa represented in Canada, and of course, much more in the Caribbean and South America and all around the world, the diaspora. We're very diverse, and it's important for us to have as many Black diverse voices from an ethnic perspective represented, right? It's very easy to have an initiative where it's just one demographic of Black, right? Or another demographic of Black. It's one of my goals to make sure that we have a united front, but all the different Black identities are identified there.
I couldn't agree more. It's so challenging, but also exhilarating to find ways and means to censor justice, access, inclusion, diversity, and equity in our work. So my next question is, how do you feel about the future of inclusive economies in Alberta?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. Over 68% of the Black population in Alberta are immigrant Blacks. Alberta is, Calgary specifically, and Edmonton are the top spot for immigrant Blacks to come. We are an entrepreneurial people. We are an entrepreneurial people, and we're bright, we're hardworking, we're entrepreneurial. And with the reception I'm getting on the research I'm doing and the reception my other brothers and sisters in academia are getting for Black entrepreneur research, decision makers are listening. And that's exciting. It's exciting.
Absolutely. There's so many projects going on. The work that the FACE Coalition is doing around the first real Black CDFI across Canada, the work that the Dream Legacy Foundation is doing with the Black Entrepreneurs Knowledge Club. So there's so much work happening. And one of the things that we've noticed is just the importance of entrepreneurship in our community and the distinctions. Many of the communities, and there's some research coming out about necessity entrepreneurs versus opportunity entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
And that distinction between having to take on entrepreneurship as a necessity, as a way to survive, versus having to take on entrepreneurship as a nice to do or an opportunity to generate revenue for yourself. And I think those distinctions and this data that's coming to the surface is so important. So once again, I applaud leaders like yourself that are decolonizing data, as we would say at Setsi, and finding ways and means to get the information to the people. We appreciate you.
You know, what you said, Victor, that's really powerful for me is the pull and push factors for entrepreneurship. It's interesting to note that a good number of Black immigrant entrepreneurs that I interviewed in my research have run businesses back home. So their needs coming into Canada are quite different from those who've never run a business before. These are folk who come from a cash-based society and they have very good cash management skills, right? The financial literacy they need is a little bit more nuanced. And because of the systemic and the structural challenges we're having, we find that people, well, there's a 50-50, studies show 50-50, pull and push factors are 50-50. However, we're noticing that people are pushed into entrepreneurship out of necessity because their credentials aren't recognized, right? So a lot of our immigrant Black entrepreneurs come with foreign credentials. Their credentials aren't being recognized, and they're therefore pushed into survival employment. And once they're in survival employment, they identify the fact that their businesses are more focused for the Black community, and getting out of all of that is challenging.
Very challenging. But once again, we give thanks because we know that the only way things will get better is with data and with sovereignty and liberation and with collective action. And we're doing it. We're doing it, and we're doing it with wisdom, with prudence. So we give thanks for your leadership. So my next question is, what does your ultimate goal look like to you and your colleagues? And what does success feel like to you and your colleagues?
Success feels like when immigrant entrepreneurs are recognized and money is poured into their ideas in blockchain, their ideas in crypto, their ideas in innovation in agriculture. It's so important. I mean, in the next 2 years, 1 million new immigrants are coming to this wonderful country. 1 million. I mean, Canada's really good at bringing in highly educated immigrants. What do we do with them? Entrepreneurship is one of the areas where we can take advantage of that. So I want to see more immigrant businesses succeeding, more unicorn businesses, more immigrant Black, more Black businesses succeeding in Canada.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. So my last question to you, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and viewers?
Well, please advocate for more disaggregated data. It's important for us to know about us. Please consider meeting with like-minded people to form our own venture capital funds. There's one that's called Migrate in Alberta, which is also a funding company, a venture capital fund for immigrants in Canada. We also need to raise money in our own communities. If it's $5 here, $10 here, go from church to mosque, wherever you worship, get our money together and begin to support ourselves in tandem with the government. So that's my call to action. Money.
Absolutely incredible. Migrate is incredible as well. BKR Capital, our brother Isaac Ololafe Jr. and yeah, we need to get capital to flow in ways that make sense for our community. To entrepreneurs that we know have the capacity, the bandwidth, the skill sets, to really change the world. So once again, we give thanks for your remarkable leadership, your visionary leadership, and all that you're doing, not just in academics, because you're a thought leader and a practitioner. So we give thanks for all you are to so many. And we'll close this interview the way we began, by acknowledging our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Bunmi, for all that you do.
Thank you.